this video tutorial, I'm going to show you how to create a realistic portrait in Zbrush. I will discuss how I utilize in reference images, anatomy of the head, and what steps I use in my work to achieve believable portraits. Human faces are tricky and require lots of observation and practice to handle. Even experienced artists can struggle on some faces, which is normal. So don't get upset if you don't get the results you wanted the first time. Just go on, take a break if needed, and keep trying. I will show you my steps in developing a good-looking portrait sculpt that helped me to minimize the mistakes and quickly spot the areas that need to be fixed when I struggle. You should have an intermediate skill level in Zbrush and have some basic knowledge of human anatomy to follow along. So make yourself comfortable and let's get started. Before I move on to sculpting anything, I start off with a base mesh. You can use any base mesh you feel comfortable with. I chose a base character from Character Creator 3. The reason for that is because it has a decent quality mesh. There is an artist-friendly tool for posing and animating a character. Starting with creating and tweaking the pose, I then move on to 3D Max to create 3 more meshes, which I will later use in Marvelous Designer for sweater creation. I export the Alembic file for animation, the first frame pose and the main pose. And then I test it out using Morph modifier to verify that all the meshes are working correctly and that in future the close simulation in Marvelous Designer will be successful. And the last but not least, my photo references. I find that this amount of photos is the minimum that you should have for creating a successful portraiture. You should have front view, profile view, and 3/4 from right and left. Step 1. Basic proportions. By basic proportions, I mean an overall shape of a skull, which is how the size of the cranium relates to the facial part. Its shapes, angles against each other. Here I prepared a skull model and a model with muscles. You can find that for your reference here in Zbrush. Let me show you. Under the light box. We'll start working from the side and we'll try to build a mass of cranium against the facial part. Building an angle of the face from side. To make it easier to see, I draw the line against critical points, for example forehead versus chin. Here we see that her chin is coming out a little. Building where the planes on the forehead break and comparing the size of the forehead compared to the mass of the cranium. It doesn't have to be perfect at this stage. Most likely you will need to come back after you build other features and tweak your proportions, but the more accurate and the more time you take at this stage building the solid base, the easier it would be in future to achieve the likeness. I now study my model from the front view and start building the planes that break on the skull. I first find the most top point and study the angles at which the planes break on the side, forming a skull. To make it a little easier, I draw on my reference photo, just trying to pretend how her skull should be without hair. To make my task a little easier, I use a brush called Trim Dynamic to brutally cut the planes as if I'm using a knife. It helps to easily build the desired angle. By comparing the head against a primitive shape like rectangle, I noted that the relation of lengths to widths of the reference is more oval than round, like my model is now. Building the front plane of the forehead and working on its transition towards the most widest point of the cranium. Concentrating on building a jawline, paying attention to how its angles are compared to cheekbones, measuring the widths of the critical points of the cheeks towards the mass of the head. Adjusting the back of the head a little. As you see, this stage requires a constant refinement and comparison of one part towards another. Once you move or scale one feature, the others would need adjustment in size or place too, because everything is relative to each other. It is like a puzzle. Once one element becomes smaller or bigger, the other compared to it automatically becomes bigger. Your task is to find the right balance. Don't worry about making it perfect. Don't get frustrated of measuring it and making it right. Just have fun and try to arrange one portion towards another. Okay, so we are heading towards step 2, which is basic skull shapes. I feel like my face oval is more or less in place, and I will move on to building smaller but important shapes of the skull. I will better shape the front, the middle and the backbones of the cranium, which are the frontal, parietal and the occipital bones, and concentrate on facial bones such as forehead, planes, cheekbones, jaw, nose area and such. I will concentrate on the forehead head part and try to build a transition over here. Moving on, now I'll be working on the bone structure of the frontal process bone towards zygomatic bone and down towards the upper row of the teeth. Also we'll build the eye sockets. At this stage it would have been handy to have a photo of the model from top or from bottom, so to know how the bones go if you look upwards or from down. But here I don't have that, so just guessing. Behind the scenes, I studied how my cheekbones relate to chin, how the upper row of teeth would go from the side, what are the angles and main mass proportions to each other. Drawing and pretending how the skull would be structured behind the skin. Also notice how I built the nostril socket.
I think that we've all had enough. What keeps you up at night, yeah. Make all the demons quiet, yeah. We were built to thrive, yeah. I think that we've all had enough. I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling it wrong. You got me like, oh yeah. I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling it wrong.
By building the bones around my eye, trying to understand how the top bones relate to lower bones and the cheek, how deep the eye is placed, and so on. For now, the model looks nowhere near as the reference, which leads us to step 3, building facial features and ears. I feel satisfied with skull structure for now. It is a common scenario that after building facial features you may need to come back and tweak the skull and bones again and review the overall proportions. So don't get surprised with that. In fact, you may go forward and back multiple times, but make sure to build a convenient, solid base before you start the detailing stage. Don't jump to details until major forms are finally built. I will start with the feature that distracts me the most, which is nose. But before that, let me bring in the anatomy reference. To start off, I will concentrate on these guys and build them up on my model. Okay, so once done, I will start shaping the yellow and the red elements on my model's nose.
Silhouettes of you are like a taunt. Never really know just what you want. With you I don't ever feel calm. I can feel the sweat inside my palms. Play with me like cats and a string. You don't understand the pain it brings. You don't ever wanna give me wings. You don't ever wanna set me free. You know I'm addicted to you, and it's twisted, you've been gifted with the evil voodoo. Got me coming back for more, even when I've been screwed. Dolls full of pins, pierce my heart straight through. I got issues in my head, I like you in my bed, but you keep me on red. Oh, everything is like a test, I better not text or I'll come off desperate.
But if I lay down and I play dead and I stay dead, baby you'll get sick of being the monster out of my head, under my bed, think you're something out of my nightmares, standing right there. But if I lay down and I play dead and I stay dead, then will you get bored of killing me?
So if I play dead, will you regret everything that you did, that you said? I don't think you understand what you're doing, and my heart's black and blue from the bruising. I feel like when I'm with you I'm losing. I feel like you think that this amusing, sitting there gaslighting and confusing. Was it me? Is it me? Am I deluded? I'm the one who's always sorry, the conclusion, even though I offer all of the solutions. I wish you loved me like I love you, it's stupid. When I'm alone with you I never feel lucid. I wish I wasn't struck by Cupid. I wish when I first saw you I knew this. When I'm with you I feel so useless, I feel diluted, my heart's been wounded. Silhouettes of you are like a taunt. Never really know just what you want. With you I don't ever feel calm. I can feel the sweat inside my palms. Play with me like cats and a string. You don't understand the pain it brings. You don't ever wanna give me wings. You don't ever wanna set me free.
But if I lay down and I play dead and I stay dead, baby you'll get sick of being the monster out of my head, under my bed, think you're something out of my nightmares, standing right there. But if I lay down and I play dead and I stay dead, then will you get bored of killing me? Then will you get bored of killing me? And will you get bored of killing me? And will you get bored of killing me? And will you get bored of killing me?
Here I took a break for a couple of days, and once I came back I spotted some mistakes in her proportions and tweaked that. But now I must say that to continue I need some additional reference to judge her features, and those references are going to be her hair and her eyebrows, which I'm going to create quickly in Zbrush. It's going to be nothing fancy, just a simple mesh, just to notify that here is a shape for hair and here's a shape of an eyebrow. So I'm going to do that now and continue with the rest of the sculpt. So here what I came up with, and now when I see how my eyebrows go, it would be a little easier for me to continue adjusting the features, and that's what I'm going to do. And I feel myself ready to jump into subdividing my model, which leads me to step 4, which is actually refining the shape. At this stage I'm going to subdivide my model, refine my shapes and add details. My main action here is going to be zoom in on the model and on the reference and start slowly building one by one all the small details that I find.
stay strong and fake a smile until I look away. But I've known you too long, it hurts to watch your blue eyes fade to gray as you fade away, as you fade away.
Yeah, I'm about to fade away, cause every time I wake up I feel like it's Monday. Something's going wrong with all the chemicals up in my brain. All of a sudden I don't look at anything the same way. Gotta build up of my thoughts sitting in an ashtray. I'm sorry that I'm so inconvenient, okay. Just let me be me and I'll stay out of your way. I can see the way you look at me, I'm such a disgrace. I never really asked to be brought into this place. You wanna love me? Well then baby I have a taste. All the highs and the lows, no you'll never be the same. I don't really wanna hurt you but I can't control the pain. If you're sticking by my side, maybe we could be okay. Okay, maybe you could be the change I need today. I promise that I've never felt this way. I really hope that you will choose to stay through all the pain.
I know you told your friend you're not okay, and tell me what's wrong and why you never said you felt that way. And guess you're trying to stay strong and fake a smile until I look away. But I've known you too long, it hurts to watch your blue eyes fade to gray as you fade away. As you fade away. As you fade away. You're trying to stay strong and fake a smile until I look away. But I've known you too long, it hurts to watch your blue eyes fade to gray as you fade away. As you fade away. As you fade away.
I've finished with sculpting main facial details and anatomy, and now we'll move on to sculpting fine little details like pores, wrinkles, pores, etc. I must congratulate us with finishing, in my opinion, the most difficult part of the whole project, which is sculpting base. From now on, things would get a lot easier and more creative. Again, I'm going to move from large shapes to smaller. First, I will do bigger bumps and spots, and then move to smaller details like wrinkles and go even smaller like pores and so on. I will treat areas one by one to achieve the results I want. Starting with some kind of a sketch, I will use standard brushes with standard alpha to input what type of details should be at the different areas of the face. For accurate spot placement, I'm going to use a standard brush with the drag dot draw method and a simple blurred circle for alpha. creases, I like brush called chisel. Lips pattern influences the likeness a lot, so I'm trying to copy the reference to achieve the same look, using clay brush for small bumps and chisel brush together with Dinian brush for wrinkles. To judge what I have and see whether I'm going in the right direction, I will now jump into 3D Max and do a test render in V-Ray. Here's how my model looks like with applied bump to skin. I jumped a little ahead and created a scene with hair and lighting for the reason of better preview perception. I will talk a little later on how to create hair and eyebrows, also will show how I created a sweater like this, but for now I feel like I need to go a little further and push more on the quality of the skin details. So I'm going to move back to Zbrush and do some sculpting using HD geometry technique. HD geometry is useful when we want to create a high resolution details on geometry. The reason it is being used is because when you subdivide a mesh in traditional way, you quickly run into a situation where your subdivision is already high, uses lots of memory, but still not enough for fine detailing sculpting. In that case, HD geometry lets you subdivide your mesh up to 1 billion polygons. You will sculpt in a special mode where your system will still run quite fast, but will let you have a good resolution for sculpting. After you exit this mode, all data will be stored on normal and displace maps. I will use my skin sketch bump, which I created earlier, as guide to what type of details is needed in different areas of the face. To start using HD geometry, you need to open HD geometry menu, press divide couple of times, and press A on your keyboard. After you press A, you will enter special mode that is restricted by a circle, inside which you can sculpt. In order to move to another area, you will need to press A again, move cursor to desired area and press A. So entering and exiting the HD mode is operated by A button. For sculpting, I will be using custom brushes, which I sculpted in the Zbrush and captured as alpha. I have alpha for filling large areas with pores, individual pores, and fine lines for drawing wrinkles. I will combine them to create a variety of bump on the skin. Before you start sculpting anything, I highly recommend saving your mesh as morph target after you enter HD geometry mode. This will let you delete the details you won't like, because a common Ctrl-Z command would work a little slow now. Also, an important note, you have to save a morph target each time you enter HD mode, because the settings drop down after you leave the mode. Having said, I will now press A and start my process of adding details. sculpting is finished, it is time to export the new bump maps. For that, head on to Multi-Map Exporter, select Normal and Displaced Maps. Under Options, select Resolution Map. Mine is 8K. Tangent, Adaptive and S-Normal options are on for normal map. For displays, I put on Adaptive, 3 channels, 32-bit, EXR resolution. Midpoint is optional, you may use 0, but I find that 50 works well for 3D Max and V-Ray. Hit Create Maps. Here are the results that I got from Zbrush. As you see, this is a normal map with all our bump. This is displacement with midpoint of 0. It has all our details on. And now I will go to 3D Max and try it on. I have finished my sculpting phase, and this is the end of part 1. In the next upcoming videos, I will talk about texturing and setting up the scene for final render. If you like my tutorial, make sure to check my other tutorials and support me with a like. Thank you for watching. See you in my future videos. Bye!
Everything is like a test. I better not text or I'll come